And President Trump says he's ending all trade negotiations with Canada after accusing the country of using a fake advertisement using President Ronald Reagan to oppose U.S. tariffs. The move could further inflame trade tensions between the two countries. And here to help us understand all of that is our Scripps News congressional correspondent Nathaniel Reed, joining us live from our D.C. newsroom. So, Nate, this change seems a bit abrupt. What exactly happened here?
Yeah, President Trump has been on a truth tirade up a storm this morning so far, defending his tariffs, also his decision to call off trade negotiations with the nation of Canada over what he says is this advertisement, which misuses language coming from former President Ronald Reagan. I want you to watch an excerpt of this ad here.
High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. Throughout the world, there's a growing realization that the way to prosperity for all nations is rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition. America's jobs and growth are at stake.
The Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute putting out a statement saying that the government of Ontario, Canada, misleadingly used portions of President Reagan's radio address to a nation on free and fair trade dated April 25th, 1987. President Trump reposting on Truth Social that statement from the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute, saying, quote, "The Ronald Reagan Foundation just announced that Canada has fraudulently used an advertisement which is fake, featuring Ronald Reagan speaking negatively about tariffs." He continues that they did this only to continue with the decision of the U.S. Supreme Court and other courts. Tariffs are very important to the national security and economy of the USA. Based on this egregious behavior, all trade negotiations with Canada are hereby terminated. So again, it's been an on-again, off-again relationship between President Trump and our northern neighbor. For many border communities, it's been a lot of uncertainty over whether they can import Canadian products, whether Canada can import American products. We've seen retaliatory tariffs come from the nation in the past. President Trump had a very adversarial relationship with former Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Ultimately, Trudeau leaving office, President Trump often calling him the governor. Now, the new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, has had a better relationship with President Donald Trump. He was elected under this kind of nationalistic fervor that we saw actually in Canada, our northern neighbor. A lot of questions about whether this is the end-all of these trade negotiations. We've seen President Trump change his mind, waffle back and forth on tariff negotiations in the past. A lot of questions about how long this latest standoff lasts and what the effect is on the American economy. Again, President Trump originally launching tariffs early in his administration over what he said was unfair practices by Canadian businesses not accepting U.S. dairy products. A lot of questions about how this will just play into the larger escalation between ourselves and our northernmost neighbor. Millions of Americans, though, along that border with Canada, a lot of uncertainty for them.
On again, off again with the tariffs, and of course that Supreme Court argument coming up November 5th, coming up early next month, Nate.